Welcome to my drama life, my college years edition. My name is Yennefer Mora. So to begin, um, I am the eldest daughter of a family of six. So shout out to all my eldest daughters in immigrant families. I had three brothers, and we were all raised by our parents who immigrated here from Mexico, and they raised us in a community that was largely comprised of Mexican immigrants. Some other Latin American countries were also represented, but the majority, just like anywhere in the Midwest, it was Mexican. Um, and those numbers really showed in our upbringing in regards to like our K through 12 education, because in our schools, Latinx students represented roughly like minimum 60% of, depending on like what school we went to, like our high school compared to like middle school and everything, which is super different compared to like when I started going to ISU, because ISU's Latinx population is roughly 3%. Um, so starting off in college, the only person I really knew there when I arrived was my roommate Lisa, and right away off the bat, you could see how different our lives were. Her mom went to ISU as well as like one of her older sisters, and it really showed in regards to the fact that she had storage, suitcases on suitcases. She was prepared, whereas I had like three bags. But luckily, through her, I met like some really, really amazing people. We shared all a lot of first experiences together, so it was all of us like first times like being away from our families, or first time like really socializing amongst people, first time like going to parties like with alcohol and dancing and stuff like that. A lot of fun, a lot of memories that I still hold near and dear to my heart. But obviously, through these experiences, I kind of started to learn that, there wasn't really a lot of people at ISU that looked like me. So, starting my second year, this is when I give full credit to this organization called Unite, which stood for Urban Needs and Teacher Education, because I feel like this organization was like the root of me really exploring my identity and exploring what it meant, like not just in college but like throughout my whole life. It was through this organization that I was able to travel throughout the US for the first time, ride an airplane for the first time, go to Charleston, South Carolina, New York City, New York, and Chicago. Spent a lot of time in Chicago, visiting communities and schools, and for the very, very first time in my life, seeing schools filled with teachers of color, black and brown teachers, really caring about their students. And it was the first time that I really got to learn about community and what community means, in like, various environments, schools, nonprofits, grassroots organizations, seeing communities that really took responsibility for each other and knew that, we all play a part in like helping each other succeed and grow. I was like in my classrooms again, and during going through like the motions of my teacher prep, it became more harder and harder to ignore how my identity played a huge role in my education and like getting to this point in my education, like second, third, fourth year of college, sitting in these classrooms and realizing that nobody saw me as somebody trying to join a profession where 80% white. Nobody saw me as, the former 10-year-old girl who would never learned about a history of her people. It felt like all these buzzwords that people would throw around on like equity, community, restorative justice, and ethnic studies, things that people would mention. It felt like nobody really cared about them, and nobody really cared about how those words affected me, whenever we would talk about them in class. Like, it was kind of, triggering to hear about or like watch these shows about kids getting their ethnic studies taken away, and it's like nobody cared to see how it made me feel, knowing that I never even got to learn my own history. Like, we're watching these students on TV when there's actually like these students sitting right next to you. So I went through my whole student teaching experience, but I didn't end up going into the teaching profession. And I feel like a lot of that has to do with the fact that I just didn't feel like my identity really had a place, in K through 12 education the way I feel it has a place in higher ed.